The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Thursday, March 29th, Friday, March 30th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair, live in the Great White North, the Caribou region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. The United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. You can also follow us on periscope.tv. We are live right now every Monday through Friday. Hi, everyone on Periscope. Great to have you along for the ride as well. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can get through a plethora of features. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. You can check out my latest blog there as well. And we got great videos from UFO seekers Tim Doyle, Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV, and so much more. What a day today. What a day. I'm absolutely loving today. I had some good news, my friends. Some good news. We're going to get to that in hour number 3, but I got some very good news today. And it retains around that television show I was telling you guys about. Apparently, I'll just say it now. Apparently, I am going to New York in early May. Somebody actually likes me on TV. They think, hey, Dave, you may not have a face for radio. It's unbelievable. I'm going to get more into that later on. We got to get to tonight's guest. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have many experiencers who listen to this show, including yours truly. People who have suffered from alien abduction and people who've had benevolent ET contact. Nonetheless, usually contact is ever known when it's going to happen. You never know, nor how often. Some people love their contact, while others wish the nightmare would end. Tonight, we have, and we will hear from one of the people who has had these experiences. Suzanne Ross lives in the UFO hotbed of Sedona, Arizona. Her contact stories and experiences, which we will hear tonight, take us through a first-hand account of what it's like to live with a multitude of experiences from those from the stars. Are they good? Are they bad? Is it a combination of both? We're going to find out as Sandra is going to be with us the first 2 hours. Eric with a K coming in for hour number 3. Susan, thank you so much for being with us. I realize I just called you Sandra. I apologize. I was looking at Sandra in the chat room. Her name, that's what happened there. But I'm back on track. Suzanne, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for being with us. Glad you're going to be with us the next 2 hours. I love stories like yours.
Thanks so much, Dave. I'm delighted to be on the show. Hello to all your listeners. Yes, this is going to be an intriguing and fascinating journey.
And I look forward to it as well. Very much look forward to hearing your story, because I think with everything that goes on sometimes, whether it's with this whole disclosure movement or the way we're taking the cryptid world or the ghostly world or the paranormal, I really do believe that a lot of times what happens, Suzanne, is we get lost talking about who the people are when they are affected. And, you know, I think it's great that you're able to come on here and discuss this with us, because these stories for some people are all too personal, where they do not know where to turn. Before we start learning about your story, I want to learn a little bit about you. What made you decide, Suzanne, that it was time to come out publicly with what you've experienced?
I had a profound spiritual awakening about 10 years ago. And I was told by the other voices that were communicating with me that it was part of my mission to awaken humanity and to let them know that the cosmic brothers and sisters out there are co-creating with us to bring in a new golden age of enlightenment. So I was very compelled to fulfill my cosmic mission here on planet Earth as a starseed.
And before we go any further, I also want to let people know that in your area right now, there is a large windstorm going on. So just by chance, if there's any way that Suzanne gets cut off tonight, we're not bringing the tinfoil out. We're going to blame Mother Nature for it, for knocking out the signal. So it's something that we are going to be very, very aware of tonight. So if Suzanne gets knocked off, we will try and bring her back ASAP. It's nothing conspiratorial with it, unless you want to blame Mother Nature for doing it on purpose. Suzanne, were you
I'll
always
let you know if a pod lands in the yard while we're talking here.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. Suzanne, were you a lifetime experiencer, or did this just come out of the blue for you?
Well, thanks for asking that, Dave. Interestingly enough, right there in Canada, my parents, who were both born and raised in Canada, had ET UFO experiences. My father grew up on the plains of Saskatchewan, and when he was only about 18 years old, him and his buddies were flying through a dirt road in Leader, Saskatchewan, and they noticed a big bright white light following their car. Next thing they knew, it was in front of their car and then way out in the land beyond. And so my dad decided to pull off, get outside the car, and wait to see if this light would pass them on the road. And the next thing they knew, they were all sitting in their car, and they looked at each other and said, well, let's get out of here. And as they started to pull away, they saw the white light race across in the distance and join with another orange light, which then sped off into space. So a little stunned, they continued down the dirt road to the nearest farmhouse, went up and knocked on the door, and the people who lived there were really annoyed that they were bothering them at midnight. And then they were shocked that it was midnight because they had left their house at about 7 p.m. and they expected it would only be about 7:30. So that was their missing time. After that, my father had a triangular shaped metallic disc in his wrist that growing up he called his alien chip. So when we were old enough to hear the story, he shared it with us. But I can tell you that growing up, we spent a lot of time pointing to the sky. My dad was really fascinated by all the lights in the sky, all the stars and constellations, and we knew the names of all of them. And then, he was very interested in alien abductions, and he had books around the house on that. He watched every show that had anything to do, with spaceships. And so that was my upbringing.
So this is something that you were really thrust into as a young child. When young kids have that type of experience, did your parents ever tell you point blank, this may be something you don't want to mention around your friends or around any other, friends or family because, we don't want this affecting you? Did you have that conversation with your parents?
Well, no, he didn't make a big deal about it. It was something that was talked about rarely, so we didn't have any, desire to go out and talk about it with our friends or neighbors or anything. But I can tell you that there was definitely some interesting occurrences when we lived on a 4-acre farm out in a place called Farmersville, Ohio. And on a few instances, we had these big red fireballs that would come racing across the yard, and we never knew what that was about. And I can tell you, as a child, I clearly recall times where right before dawn, I would be sound asleep, and I would suddenly become aware of footsteps coming down the hall, and I would become paralyzed. And at those times, I knew that there were beings standing over me, but I was never afraid. I knew that they were like family members and that they were there for a special purpose to send me healing energy or just embrace me with loving energy. And so it just seemed like a natural occurrence to me. Also, I had a lot of invisible friends when I was young and growing up, and I was born in Mount Shasta, and we lived right near the woods there. And my sister and I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and my dad would throw us on his motorcycle and take us out into the woods in Mount Shasta. And, as a child, I had so many invisible friends. I talked to them so much. My parents ended up building a little house for me in the backyard so I could, have parties for all of my invisible friends. And I recall, being in the woods as a kid and really seeing, fairies and being very well aware of elementals and presences, but they were my friends and I enjoyed going out there and being with them.
Was your sister having the same type of experience as you were?
We really didn't talk about it. So, I'd really not like to focus on her during this conversation.
Oh, no,
She's more
no.
private than I am.
No, I understand that, but you have to understand, I have to ask the question. My job is an indelible, intriguing journalist. But nonetheless, I mean, focusing on you, and I can respect and appreciate that, by the way. Focusing on you here, when you started having your own experiences as a child and started feeling, invisible people around and shadows in your bedroom and the feeling that people were around, how old were you when that started?
When we lived in Mount Shasta, I was only about 3 years old, but I have a clear recollection of playing in the front yard, and even, the dollhouse that my parents built for me when I was really young. And I started walking and talking and communicating with these invisible friends at a really young age. And, that's why they built the house for me, because I was so noisy talking to all these friends all the time. But it felt to me as a young child, that these friends were spirits of young children that were coming to visit me. And it was different when I was in the woods. In the woods, it felt more like fairies, and plant spirits that I would communicate with. But back at the house, in my little doll house, I would set up teacups and dishes, and the kids that would come visit me were spirits, but they were human kids. So I'm guessing they were passed on and just coming back to hang out with me.
So you were a connected child in kind of the realm of everything. You had spirits, little cryptids like fairies, and at the time I'm sure you didn't know what aliens were, Did you ever think that this was different from anybody else? That you were different by having these experiences, because most people don't?
I think in the way I felt different was that I was just always such a bright, shiny light. I just always wanted everyone to be happy, and I wanted, all of my friends to always be around me, and I always wanted to run and go play in the woods, out in nature, and I was just a very, very joyful child. I always wanted to just rejoice in the beauty of life, and I loved the sun, and I always wanted to be basking in the sun, and I knew there was something very special about the sun. And like I said, even at night, when I was aware that these beings would come down the hall into my bedroom, I was never afraid, so everything was always really positive and full of love and light. And it's still that way to this day.
What kind of beings were coming down the hallway? Can you describe them?
Well, I couldn't see them per se, but I knew that they were humanoid beings, but I knew they weren't humans. And for me, it always felt like they came in a group of 3. So didn't really see them in my mind's eye, but it's not like they were phantom beings either. I was aware that they, were physical beings. And, I have no idea how they came into the house, but they walked down the hall. And this continued throughout my life. And I can tell you that even as a teenager and as an adult, I had these experiences. And even as much as, say, 5 years ago, I started to become aware. I always wanted to leave my bedroom windows open. I've always slept with my bedroom window open. I like the fresh air. But I was aware on a few occasions that this, I would suddenly sit up in bed and I would see this bright white light like fly out the window and be gone. And I thought, wow, was that light just in my room, or, where did the light come from? Yeah, it definitely had, repeated incidents of that throughout my life, on top of being aware of spirits. So, also very well aware of spirit energy and ghosts of past loved ones have certainly visited me, and so have been in contact with that realm as well. Ghosts in my house, and then becoming aware of who they were and why they were there. So just, I guess, a psychic ability to see and experience beyond our normal realm.
Were your experiences happening on a daily basis, or did they come sporadically over time?
Sporadically over time, until about in 2008, I had a profound spiritual awakening. And it was really triggered by stepping onto a Buddhist path. So I started engaging in Buddhist meditation. And the first time that I sat in meditation, I became aware of 3 spirit beings coming into the room. And it was just like swoosh, swoosh, and swoosh. And literally the wind from it blew my hair back. And I was aware that 3 beings had just joined me. And I was very blessed that they had, come for me to bless me in my meditation. And so it was a beautiful experience. And I felt like they were communing with me. But then when I came out of my meditation and I got up and walked out of the room, I sort of looked back and went, what was that? What just happened? Were those ghosts or spirit beings? But after that, I became more well aware of spiritual energy. And that's when I became aware that a woman had passed on in the house I was living in, and she would watch me do my laundry. And I became well aware of that. And then a psychic came to my house and told me exactly that an elderly Asian woman had passed in my home and that she hung out with me and particularly liked to watch me do the laundry. So that was confirmed. And then I had a relative who passed in my home and stayed in my home after she passed on. And I became aware that she was hanging out with me in my bedroom. And my dog was very well aware of it and would not come in my room or sleep with me until we were able to send her into the light. So it seemed like things really picked up for me about 10 years ago.
Very intriguing, because so many stories that I've heard from people on this show, it seems between 2007 and 2012, a lot of people got affected by some sort of contact, whether it was paranormal, ufological, or cryptid. It just seemed to spike in that time. Did you ever see any patterns with anybody or anybody else in your circle or outer or inner circle that was happening to as well?
Well, once I started to awaken, I reached out to a spiritual community so that, I could share my experiences and talk. I sort of got out that when I had
Suzanne, Suzanne, we only heard about, in the last 20 seconds, heard about every 19th word there. Are you still there? Do we have you connected? Is the windstorm picking up, Suzanne?
You were cutting out. Can you say that?
You were cutting out quite a bit here. Cutting out quite a bit. I don't know. Are you able to hear me?
I just now heard that. Yeah, we're kind of cutting in and out, though. If that continues, we can try the telephone. But for right now, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to repeat your answer that you just gave, because we literally did not hear any of it.
Okay, so what I was saying is around that time, I intentionally sought out a spiritual community of, psychics, spiritual practitioners. And one of the reasons I did this is because I did want to enhance my psychic abilities, and I wanted to learn how to become more psychic. And as soon as I set that intention and started to do some of the practices they recommended, I immediately started automatic writing and channeling.
Very interesting. And for people who don't know what automatic writing is, could you fill them in on that?
So I had heard that people could just put pen to paper and request a higher intelligence to come through them with a message. And so I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So I literally just sat down, went into sort of a meditative state, placed my pencil on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and suddenly an energy just took over my hand and started writing in little squiggly lines. And the first word that came through was raw, R-A, raw. And the next word was love, and the next was unity, and the next was integrate, body, mind, and spirit. And that each of those words took up like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So even though that was a phenomenal experience, and I felt very blessed for the opportunity to receive a message from Ra in this way, I saw that it was a very laborious way to try and communicate.
When you started making full-on contact and starting having, this become a more regular experience in 2008, did you see a shift in your own daily living?
Yes, well, I felt very elevated by a more radiant self, my own self. I felt like I had been braided with my own higher self. I just felt very elevated in my everyday experience of life. I was experiencing just pure joy and almost an ecstatic bliss state. I felt inner peace, and my experience of life had just been heightened, and my senses were very heightened. So I spent a lot of time taking walks out in nature. I did work, but I only worked part-time. So on my days off, I would head out into nature, because this is where I really felt connected with all of creation. And as I did, I really started to notice that the plants and the animals were living, breathing beings, and I could see the fractal nature of all things and beings, and this is where I would receive messages, and messages would literally just come through me about the water being liquid consciousness, and about everything was just this pulsating consciousness, and it was full of infinite intelligence, and I could feel a profound force of love, behind it all. So, yes, I would say that my everyday life definitely took a leap into a higher level of awareness.
Did you find yourself taking chances that maybe you normally didn't take, or did you become more introverted and reserved? Because I've heard some experiencers who go one way where they start, taking more chances that they've never taken in their lives, but there's a whole group of people, it almost seems like the majority, and I would include myself as an experiencer in that group, where we've become more introverted and, less communicable to a lot of our people, especially maybe our long-term friends. Did that happen with you?
No, I really wanted everyone to experience what I was experiencing. I wanted everyone to have this joyful, radiant experience and feel this bliss state and feel this deep inner peace. So, I was out there loud and proud talking to everybody that would give me the time of day about, what I was doing. And I have to say, I was a personal trainer at the time, and my clients were coming up to me and saying, like, what are you on? Because I want some of that. And that inspired me to start teaching mind, body, spirit workshops at the club that I worked at, which had over 5,000 members. And these workshops became very popular, and we were doing meditation, and we were doing mind expansion and thought awareness, and even, purification on a nutritional level. And so, right away I started sharing what I was doing, because I wanted, everyone else to have this, elevated experience of life too. And the feedback from these workshops was just phenomenal. People were just saying how their lives were being changed in so many profound and positive ways by engaging in these workshops. And that led to me writing my books, and then ultimately creating shows. So yes, ever since I started to really awaken in a big way, I've really been out there in the world, inspiring and empowering and enlightening others.
When you started channeling, what were you channeling? Who were you channeling?
So the first group I started channeling was Group Raw. And that came through right away in my first automatic writing. Now, for me, when I started to wake up, I wanted to know, who are we? What are we? What is this reality? Where do we come from? Why we're here? What are we made of? Like all of those big questions, were just overwhelming me, and I had such an insatiable sense of curiosity about it all. So those were my questions. I wanted to know from these beings, what is this? What is this thing we call reality, and what are we, and where are we from, and where are we going? And so I started to sit in meditation, and I could ask specific questions and they would come through me, but I didn't have a scribe sitting there, taking notes. But I literally heard this message, dragon, dragon, dragon. And I thought, dragon, what in the heck? And then it occurred to me, dragon, naturally speaking, is a software program where you can speak into your computer and your computer will type it. Of course, we're all familiar with voice recognition software. So right away, I set that up. And as I would channel through these answers, I would speak it and the computer would type it. Of course, I'd have to go back and correct it and what have you. But this was a very effective way for these channelings to be recorded.
So the beings that you were talking with, were they alien at the time while you were channeling, or were they your spirit guides? Who was directing you from the other side?
I mean, I'd like to say that the spirit guides are extraterrestrial, right? I mean, no matter what we're talking about, be it angels, archangels, ascended masters, ETs, well, especially the benevolent ETs that I've always been in contact with. It's all of them. And as time has gone on, mind you, this started happening over 10 years ago. I've channeled, beings from, like I said, beginning with Ra, but then, Archangel Michael, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Ascended Master Saint Germain comes through, and more recently, more of the star races like the Lyrans and Arcturians and Pleiadians. And I become aware of my own multidimensional aspects, that are residing in these other realms and on these other, planets and galaxies. So any myriad of beings have come through over the last 10 years.
Were they comforting? Were they very benevolent? Or did you have any type of nightmarish ones trying to get to you by maybe cloaking themselves?
Never. Early on, and it could go back to my childhood, my mother called me Susie Sunshine. I've just always been a very positive, light being. And I can tell you that early on, my guides, like the psychics and the clairvoyants that I reached out to, they taught me powerful techniques for placing angels in every corner of the room, bringing the whole room up to a golden bright light, calling upon angels and guardian angels to surround the house and to be present at all times. And, just to always, anytime you start channeling a being, just to say, I welcome you in the light of love. And in this way, you just don't attract those shadow beings. And there's so much light that it's blinding to them. And so, I think that's helpful in making sure that the only beings that come through are the benevolent ones.
For people who have never channeled before, albeit an extraterrestrial species, it's a lot for people who've never had that experience to fathom. How do you describe it to somebody who may be a little bit skeptical about what you're experiencing when you go through this?
So the first time that I started doing automatic writing, I mean, all I can say is that I sat down and went into a meditative state, fully believing that I could do this. And I had been meditating for a while in a Buddhist-inspired type of meditation. So, I had connected in and practiced going deep into trance meditation, before the automatic writing came through. But when I did sit down and put pen to paper, I had no doubt in my mind that something would come through. So I think, that first the connection, and then really just the belief and the faith that I can do this, and that, these beings are going to come through and communicate with me, probably helped to make it happen. But once I put pen to paper, it just started, it just came through and started happening, and I really believe that we all have the psychic innate ability to connect, and even just by setting an intention, but certainly by engaging in spiritual practices.
So when you started channeling these alien beings, were they more humanoid? Were they looking like the Greys? What were we dealing with?
So I would say I'm clairaudient, which means I can hear the messages in my mind, and I can speak them and write them. But I don't see beings. I don't see spirits, physically, or even, as a mist. I only can hear, but I'm also very aware of the presence. So I can tell you when I intentionally go into a channeling state, I'm immediately aware who it is. I can tell by the personality, and even then the name might come, to the top of my mind, and I know who is present. I know who is wanting to channel through me. And then once I start channeling, I actually take on the personality and the voice of that being. But they don't take over my body, so I am aware what they are saying, but they are saying it through me. So my voice might sound different. It might have a slight accent. But, like I'm saying, I can't tell you what they look like, per se.
So how do you know, or what's the vibe that you get that you're dealing with some sort of benevolent being?
So, for instance, Saint Germain. I just became very aware that Saint Germain was present, and he, introduced himself and had a message, had many messages for me and wanted to come through. Now, mind you, I'm writing books. And so because the other voice told me to write a series of books on the evolution of consciousness. So there was a purpose behind sitting in these channeling sessions, because these beings had directed me to bring this information forth out into the world. So they were giving me the messages that they want the world to know. So, during these channeling sessions, they would tell me who they were, but then I would get to know them, and I would get to know the feeling of their presence, their personality. It's almost like, someone that and you're aware of how it feels to be with that person and what their personality is like. So I just become aware of the difference between Saint Germain and Jesus, or, between Magdalene and Sophia. I could just tell who was coming through, not only because their name would come, into my awareness, but because of the feeling of their personality.
Was it a religious experience? Because you bring up a lot of religious figureheads here that you say you have communicated with.
Well, I consider myself more spiritual, and consider some of these ascended masters, archangels, angels, Magdalene and Jesus as Lady Nada and Lord Sananda, very well may be extraterrestrial, advanced otherworldly beings of a higher nature and definitely of a benevolent nature. But I don't, consider this, them religious characters. They're my guides, and I consider myself spiritual.
And that's a fair assessment. I think more people who delve into this side of everything become more spiritual, but still remain connected to what we do deem as religious figureheads. I don't think that's very strange at all. However, for a lot of people, you see where they may have troubles trying to connect with what people such as yourself are saying, because in their mind, how can you say you're not religious, yet you're talking to all of these religious figureheads? So to them, it may be a little bit of a double standard, shall we say.
I just consider them my spiritual guides, and I believe that these great teachers, these masters who have come down since ancient times to walk amongst us and teach us and set up mystery schools in ancient Egypt, in the Celtic region, for the Druids, these were ascended masters who came down and walked amongst us. That doesn't mean they couldn't also be advanced otherworldly beings, from other galaxies. So in that sense, then we would consider them extraterrestrials, So maybe these ascended masters are coming from the Pleiades or Arcturus or the Andromeda galaxy, for all we know. But to us, they're advanced otherworldly beings who are coming through at certain times, throughout humanity's evolution to enlighten us, to teach us, to inspire and empower us. And when they're not here physically, we can channel them, and many of them have left and are no longer, here walking amongst us like maybe they did back in ancient Egypt in earlier times, Mesopotamia and such. But they can still come through and share teachings and messages through channeling. Many of them are, and many of them do, and they come through for people like myself who are willing to write books about it so that their messages get out to humanity, and to, create television shows, which I am with my show Supernatural Adventures and my interview shows. So I think they, particularly enjoy coming through people who are going to share their messages.
How much is living in the hotbed of UFOs, Sedona, Arizona, played for your own experiences?
So this all started to happen for me in Northern California, just outside of San Francisco. I only moved to Sedona about 2.5 years ago. However, I can tell you that I was definitely called to move here. So I moved here in 2015. In 2012, I was seated in meditation, and I heard a voice give me a command to get up and write on a poster board, which became a vision board, that my husband and I would move to Sedona in 2015. Now, at the time, I didn't even know what Sedona was, where it was, why it was. And after that, many people would come up to me left and right and say, have you ever heard of Sedona? You should go to Sedona. You and your husband would really like Sedona. It's so beautiful in Sedona. So in 2014, my husband promised me that we would go to the Grand Canyon. And I said, can we just go through this place called Sedona on the way? People are telling me that I would love it there. And so we did. And of course, as soon as I saw the magnificent red rocks, I knew I had come home. I knew this is where I needed to live and be. And so lo and behold, just like the vision board said, just like the voice told me 3 years earlier in 2015, my husband and I moved to Sedona. And when I came here, things really started to expand for me in a really powerful way. Now, I integrated with the spiritual community right away. And some of the people here are vibrating at such a high frequency. That's about the only way I can describe it. They're so aware and enlightened that just being with them and taking hikes to the Red Rocks and having them, point things out to you that are supernatural about Sedona, you start to see for yourself this very supernatural essence here. You start to experience the feeling of walking into a powerful vortex. And certainly have had, the UFO sightings here. And then, having friends around me when, we step out onto my back deck and start looking for UFOs. These are experiencers too. And we intentionally call upon crafts and, we make a request to communicate with extraterrestrials. And so, we've really called those experiences in. But yes, I do believe Sedona, it is more conducive here to have those experiences.
I've talked to Melinda Leslie. I actually spent this past weekend hanging out with her at UFOCon 2018, and her and I had talked on the phone numerous times, but that was my first time meeting her. She runs, obviously, a UFO tour in Sedona, and she just says there is just something special. Maybe it's, I hate to use this term because I don't really buy into it. Maybe it's the ley lines. Maybe it's just the placement on Earth, but she just says that there is so much going on there at any given time that it's rare that she could go outside and not see anything, rather than seeing something that resembles a UFO, whether it's just an orb in the sky or some sort of triangle type unit. Do you have that same type of success when you go outside to look and see what's up flying?
Yes, if I go outside and I sort of set an intention, you have to be aware and you have to be looking. If you're just, walking around in your own head, I have to go to the bank, I have to go to the store, I have to, and you're not paying attention, you're probably not going to see it. You have to kind of head out and look up. And if you head out with the intention of, looking for it and wanting to see it and maybe even calling it in, because I do believe you can call it in. And yes, I can head out in the middle of the day in like a bright sunny day. And what I will see in the daytime is I will see the blue sky literally unfold and present a bright shining craft, and the sun will shine off of it, and clearly there sits, a disc-shaped craft shining in the sun, hovering right there, and then it's like the sky will just swallow it back up again. And other people that I've been with have seen exactly that. In fact, it was interesting because I had some friends come to visit recently, and I was saying, during the day, this happens. It's like the sky is some sort of fluid, fabric, and it will like release this craft and show it to us, and then it will like swallow it back up. And lo and behold, we're driving out into Sedona, and I said, look, and exactly that happened. And my friend had never seen that before, but she witnessed it for her own eyes. And her jaw just dropped down and said, wow, I had just been telling her about it, and there it was, and it happened. And then later that day, we saw in the distance this white line of, it was like a pillar that was forming as this white dot started to fall from the sky. And as it fell, it left in its wake like a white tube of light, and it went through a cloud and proceeded below the cloud and went in behind the Red Rock Mountains. And so that was another phenomenal event that happened that day in the middle of the day. So these are experiences that, can happen in the day. And I go out on the rocks with my good friend who has seen a lot of crafts out there, and she has taken many, 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 many pictures during the day of orbs and crafts and tons of orbs, but also crafts. And she's seen big cigar-shaped crafts, and yes.
And once again, there is so many different types of craft that are being seen in that area. Do you think there is some sort of vortex or portal, or maybe a multitude of them, that are around the Sedona area that are causing all of this activity?
Well, for one, the red rocks themselves do emanate a higher electromagnetic frequency. And part of that has to do with the red rocks themselves, because the iron ore of the red rocks are highly magnetic. And just underneath the iron ore is crystal, quartz crystal. And you can clearly see that. You can sit on the red rocks and you can look down and you can see quartz crystal coming right through the red rocks. And so that, in itself carries a high energetic. So you have the iron ore of the red rocks, you have the quartz crystal just underneath them. And so, these red rocks themselves create this electromagnetic environment, that is probably very conducive to paranormal phenomena. And then, yes, I have experienced this vortexual energy where you're walking through the red rocks and suddenly you step into an area that just feels energetically different. It feels like a more illuminated experience. Things just feel different. They look different. Everything is like in vibrating in a fluorescent light. So, you really kind of have to experience it for yourself. I may not be describing it well, but something is different than it was a moment ago when you enter these areas. And so I do really think that there are interdimensional portals, that open up in some of these areas on the planet. Like you said, it could be something to do with the energetic ley lines in the earth. I think that, sacred temple sites are built where there's this, higher type of energy. And it's probably a combination of something coming in from the cosmos and possibly something coming up from the inner earth that creates this just perfect dynamic for, portals, interdimensional veils to be thin, and paranormal phenomena to happen.
We only got about 2.5 minutes here before we have to go to our first break of the night. Canadian Joe on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio is wondering if you have any photos of the crafts that you could potentially tweet out to #SpacedOutRadio.
I'd have to look those up, but yes.
Maybe not right now. Maybe not right now. You're kind of busy, but maybe after the show or tomorrow or something like that, because our crowd would love to see them.
Sure.
That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Getting to the vortexes here, you mentioned vortex energy. For those of us who have not experienced that, what is that like?
So it is as if you're in a very dense, you're walking in through the dense, hard, red rock. You're on the clay, you're on the ground. You feel like a heavier, dense being, like, out in nature. And then suddenly it's almost as if you walk through a doorway. You walk through an energetic doorway and everything feels lighter. Your body feels lighter. You almost feel like you're floating above the ground. Things seem more luminescent around you. Things seem to be sparkling. Like I said, everything seems to be fluorescent. There's just a marked difference from how it was before, walking on the dense ground, feeling like your heavy physical being. You know, the rocks are hard, the ground is hard, your body's heavy, and then suddenly, boom, it's like you walk into an experience where everything is lighter. You know, you feel lighter. I've even experienced hiking. You know, hiking can be laborious. You know, you're hiking and you're clumsy maybe, but in these areas, it's like, you know, before you know it, you're halfway up the Red Rock and you look back and wonder how in the heck you got there. So it's just a different, lighter experience. You know, your body's lighter and the environment feels lighter.
We only got about 30 seconds here, so I'm not going to hammer you with another question right off the bat, because in hour number 2, I want to get into your own personal experiences where you started being taken and what it's like to be taken. I think that's very important to bring around to the crowd, especially those who may have experienced it, but they're afraid to talk about it, or maybe just don't know what is going on. There is so much to move on here in regards to that type of experience. Suzanne Ross, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio. We got one more hour with Suzanne tonight, and then in hour number 3, we're going to be joined by the Awakening Man, Eric with a K, where we're going to talk UFOs and so much more about experiences. He spent a couple of months in Sedona as well, so we're going to find out more about that area. Suzanne, I'm going to get you to hold on here as we are going to go to our first break of the night. When we come back, more experiences with Suzanne Ross right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. at spacedoutradio.com. The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter the Encounter.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the SOR Paranormal Roundtable. We do it the final Friday of every month. I'm going to bring in some friends. They're not going to know the topics. We're going to talk about the month that was in the weird and strange. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on The Fringe FM. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. There is no password for tonight as Bill Cardwell is absent. He is absent tonight.
So we're skipping the password for tonight, but Bill usually sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, we're all over the place. All you got to do is type in Spaced Out Radio on your favorite social media outlet. We are there. We're also on periscope.tv, live every Monday through Friday night. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome back for one more hour Suzanne Ross. She's an experiencer out of Sedona, Arizona. And what a wonderful woman. She is talking about her experiences and how she got into this in hour number 1. And she's also very multi-talented. She's an author, has her own TV show, radio show. You're just all over the map, Suzanne.
Thank you for that. Yes, I am very driven to get a message of inspiration and enlightenment and empowerment out to humanity. I really want humanity to know that they are both human and divine, and that they have very special gifts innate in each and every one of them. And I am very determined to activate the divine spark in all of my brothers and sisters here on planet Earth.
Tell us about your books, because you kind of wrote these in an unnatural way.
That's right. So I started taking walks out in nature, and when I did, I would hear another voice that would just give me messages. And I was walking out in nature one day, and this booming voice came through and said, "You will write a 30-day book on the evolution of consciousness." Mind you, at the time, I was a personal trainer, and my answer was, "I'm not an author. I'm a personal trainer." And the voice was, "Well, you'll figure it out." So I went home and started to ask very deep questions during my meditations about the true nature of reality. Like I said, about who we are, where we came from, why we're here. You know, what is the subatomic nature of our energetic reality? And as I asked these heavy, profound questions, the answers would just come through. And I could sit for 2 or 3 hours in front of my computer, which had voice recognition software, and the answers would just come through me. And when I would sort of come back around out of my meditation, I would see what I had written and be shocked. You know, this was not information that I had ever learned anywhere else or read about before. So I realized, you know, that this was information that my spirit guides and these higher advanced beings, you know, wanted me to write about and to get out there. And so my first book, Wake Up, Awakening Through Reflection, is a 10-day life lessons workshop. So that came out in 2015. The 30-day book turned into 3 10-day books. One for liberating the mind from limiting beliefs. So really, you know, opening people's minds, helping them deal with the karma and experiences from this lifetime so that they can be free to explore deeper topics like spirituality and science. So then my second book, Rise Up, is for the spirit. And we really talk about science and spirituality. And so my book, Rise Up, comes out next month, and it really does explore the deeper questions of humanity. The book is mostly channeled, although I do bring in reference material, scientific material, other channeled material to validate what I'm bringing forth through my channeling. And in this book, we do go to sacred sites around the globe. And along the way, we talk about the spiritual belief systems of our ancient ancestors. And we have as our tour guides people who've written books about these places. So it's an adventure. And it's very enlightening and informative and always inspiring and empowering.
What about your television show, lightenuptv.net?
Thank you for asking me about that. So when I came to Sedona, I had been interviewing people occasionally at various events that I was going to promote my book. The first book launch event that I had, I didn't want to just stand there up on stage by myself for 2 days and talk about my book. So I invited a lot of people who were authors and speakers, spiritually inspired practitioners. And the whole thing was videotaped. When I got home and I watched it, I thought, these people, their presentations are so inspiring. This needs to get out there on social media. And then in the second thought, decided, well, I can interview these people and then show highlights from their presentations during their interview and promote their books at the same time. And so that really led to creating these 30-minute videos where I would interview spiritually inspired authors, speakers, practitioners, and then I would add music and graphics and titles and maybe show highlights from, presentations, events they had spoken at, etc. And so that, once I started posting all of that on social media, I was contacted by Voice America TV, and they asked if I would like to have a weekly television series on their network with over 5 million people from around the world tuning in. And so my show, Lighten Up TV, was on Voice America for 2 years running. I had the second most watched show on their network, and so I was required to interview somebody new every week, and it really, forced me to get out there in a big way. To date, I've interviewed over 100, thought leaders from around the world. Now, here in the last year, I have interviewed, Clifford Mahooty, David Childress, Brad Olson, J.J. Hertock, Alan Steinfeld, Barbara Handcloud, Danielle Rama Hoffman, the list goes on, but you can visit lightenuptv.net and you can see these phenomenal interviews. And, we'll go for an hour, 90 minutes, and really talk about some very fascinating topics, aliens, angels, archangels, ancient mystery schools, ETs, UFOs, you name it, disclosure about the Vatican Church and, our own government's involvement. And, so we talk about it all. And these are really interesting interviews. So even though I'm not on Voice America TV anymore, I'm still interviewing people on a very regular basis. And my book, Rise Up, every time that I reference an author, there is a link to lightenuptv.net because I've interviewed that author. So in my book, I reference David Childress, and you just click on the link and go see my interview with him. So in the book, that is very unique. I've never seen that before. So that's kind of fun.
Very intriguing nonetheless. And what about Supernatural Adventures? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for asking about that. That's part of the reason I stopped doing Voice America TV with, the weekly obligation to have the Lighten Up show, because I became very inspired when I moved here to create a television series about the supernatural events in Sedona. My friend Shakina Rose and I met shortly after I moved here, and we felt like we were being reunited. We knew that we had spent past lives together. Right away, we knew, there were many cosmic connections. And so we started going out on the land. And as we did, we started to realize when we were sitting on the Red Rocks that we could engage in telepathic communication. We could go into meditation and come out of it and have had the same experience and the same visualizations. And so that was really magical. And then one day, it was actually Shakina who just shouted out, "Supernatural Sedona." And I was like, yeah, man, it's really supernatural here, and she's like, no, it's a television series, Supernatural Sedona, and we'll go out on the land. And, so we got very excited about doing that. And we started going out on the land, and particularly to these powerful vortex sites. She has lived here for 7 years. She's had many experiences with the paranormal and very sacred experiences with visions of Mother Mary, but definitely seeing, large craft and communicating with ETs. So we went to these places, and we brought other people in the community who have had these experiences as well, who've had contact here, and so we started creating this series, and now you can see 4 clips of this series on lightenuptv.net under the tab called Supernatural Adventures. You can watch, that 4-part series, and it's really fascinating. We have been working with 2 Hollywood showrunners who would like to see this show on a major network. So right now we're engaging in a social media campaign to boost the, popularity of the website and the shows and myself, so that we can, the show can be sold to a major network.
Well, good luck with that. I'm having a few people ask where they could find your books.
Thank you for that. So you can go to lightenuptv.net and click on the books tab, and you can see my book, Wake Up. But you can also go to Amazon, and you can purchase Wake Up as paperback, or you can also purchase it as a Kindle. And that would just be Wake Up, Awakening Through Reflection by Suzanne Ross.
Wonderful. Thank you with that. When your own experiences started, when you started being taken, were you taken alone, or were you taken with other people?
So the first really phenomenal experience of being taken up happened here in my home. So when friends would come over, it sort of started out as just being something fun to do. We'd go stand on my back deck and look out into the sky and see if we could see anything unusual. Well, lo and behold, right away, we would see these bright crafts. We see, blue lights that looked like diamonds, big diamonds hanging in the sky, really large-looking crafts coming up from the mountain range just to the right of the deck. Lights just hovering in the sky and darting about. And so we were really quite amazed how active it was right here in my own backyard. Now, mind you, I only live 5 miles from what's called Montezuma Well, which is meant to be one of the biggest portal, sites here in Sedona. It's a really interesting site where there's a giant well that is bottomless. They've had scuba divers go down there, and because of the fissures in the sand below, they, cannot find a bottom to this. So it literally, goes into the inner earth. The Yavapai Indians have a story about this being their place of emergence, their Garden of Eden, where, they sent a girl up in a hollowed out log up through Montezuma's well, who went to Mingus Mountain, was impregnated by the sun god, and became the progenitor of their race. They were living in the inner earth, and, they wanted their seed to continue on the surface. And so, it's a very sacred place, but, it's known as a powerful vortex spot too. And, people talk about lights coming in and out of that well. And I just live, 5 miles from it. So, yes, a lot of activity off my deck. So, yes, one day we went out on the back deck, and I had a friend visiting from out of town, and we saw various lights flashing in the sky. And finally she just said, "I just want to see a mothership." And right then this giant craft came up from behind the mountain range. It hovered, and then it started to float up. It floated up to the right and hovered, then it floated up to the left and hovered. And we just thought it was absolutely beautiful. We were in awe of it. And then it started coming towards us, this brilliant big white craft. And so we started running around screaming and shouting, "Oh my God, it's coming." And she's grabbing her phone and, she's trying to take pictures of it. And so it got almost right over top of us. And then it just hit turbo boost and just sped right over the house and off into the distance. So that was one of the most remarkable experiences I've had on my back deck, except for the time we were taken up. So on this occurrence, I had two friends visiting who were experiencers. Both of them had had regular experiences of being taken up, going on board ships, having ET beings come into their room at night, so these friends are experiencers, and we intentionally called upon the Arcturians to show themselves, to land a pod in our backyard, to, lower a ship so that we could see it up close, to communicate or contact them in some way. So it was about 8 o'clock at night, and we went out on the back deck, and we stood there. And we saw some lights in the sky. In fact, we saw a very bright light in the distance and wondered if this might be, an Arcturian ship, since that's who we had called. Then the lights on the patio all came on. Now, we were the only three home, and we were out on the deck. And the only way that you can turn these patio lights on is if you're inside the house. So we kind of looked at each other and thought, okay, that's odd. And then I have detectors, motion detectors on the stairwell that lead up from the lower level of the deck up to the top of the deck. And so that, at night, if you were to go down the stairway, they would all light up so that you wouldn't trip and fall down the stairs. Well, on this night, we're standing on the deck, and the motion detector at the bottom of the stairwell comes on, and the light comes on, and then the second one, and then the third one, as if someone's walking up the stairs, but we don't see anybody. And then I looked at my friend and said, "Wow, I feel really dizzy." And she was at the top of the stairwell and had to grab the railing, and she said, "Wow, I feel dizzy too." And then the next thing you know, we're standing on the deck freezing, and we're like, "Wow, it's so cold. What are we doing out here? Let's go inside." So we went inside, we sat down on the couches, and we were all so tired. We were just exhausted. And we thought it was only like 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock. So we tried to make some conversation, and I just said, "You know what? I'm so exhausted. I have to go to bed." So I went back to my room, and my phone was on the nightstand. And so I picked up my phone and looked at it, and it said 12:40. And I was shocked. But I was so tired, and they had already gone to bed on the other side of the house, and I just didn't even have the energy to get up and say, "Hey, you guys, look what time it is." So I just thought, okay, whatever. And I went to sleep. And the next morning I got up, and I felt nauseous, dizzy, my hands were clammy. And I came out into the kitchen, and I always have coffee in the morning, and I just looked at the coffee and I thought, no way. I don't feel well. I was really thirsty. And then my friends come out of their room, and they look horrible. They're nauseous and dizzy and sick. And all three of us, kind of looked at each other, and we're like, did you notice what time it was when we went to bed last night? And they said, yeah. And so, we just sat there for the next half hour discussing, what possibly could have happened, how we lost, 3, maybe 4 hours of time. And, we knew we had set the intention and called it in. But in these instances, many times your memory gets wiped, and you don't have recall of what your experience actually was. But we were all nauseous until probably 3 or 4 o'clock that afternoon when we finally started feeling better again. But I did go to a psychic, very well-known psychic who has been, doing readings for years here in Sedona, and is, best-selling author, what have you. So very gifted psychic. And I sat down with her, and right away, she said, "You had an experience." I said, "Yes, I did." And she said, "I can see it, and I can tell you what happened." And she said, "There were 3 of you, and, you guys called this in." And she said, 3 Arcturians came in a pod, but they were in an invisibility shield, and that they landed in the backyard, and that they came out in their invisibility gear, and they walked up the stairwell, and there were 3 of them for 3 of us. So, each one took each one of us by the hand and took us down the stairwell and onto their ship. And they proceeded to download us with information about advanced technology, advanced knowledge that we would need at a later time. And it would reveal itself over time. We would become more aware of it. And when the time was right, we would have perfect recall of what happened. But meanwhile, we have been downloaded with this advanced knowledge and this advanced technology. So there they have it.
That is phenomenal. Phenomenal. What kind of download did you get about knowledge and technology? Are you able to recall any of that?
No. I mean, I can tell you this. My book, Rise Up, is largely channeled. And I was asking very complex questions and got very clear answers about the advanced knowledge and wisdom and technology that they had in ancient times, in ancient Egypt, in Mesopotamia, in Ireland and Scotland and England. These ancient cultures, the goddess cultures, the matriarchal cultures, the early indigenous peoples, the Mayans. This all came through to me in very powerful visions. I was remembering past lives as these people, as ancient Mayan, as ancient Egyptian, present at that time, using this advanced technology to build the pyramid, to build the temple sites, engaging in initiations and activations to awaken, these innate gifts. We were taught by advanced otherworldly beings who came and walked amongst us during those times. So while I was writing my book, Wake Up, I was downloading this advanced wisdom and knowledge, and even the technologies that were used to build these temple sites. I was shown. In fact, in one of my Egyptian past lives, I was involved in drawing these blueprints and in delivering them from the architects themselves to the builders. And certainly these advanced beings, these extraterrestrial beings, the shiny ones, the tall luminescent beings, were with us from Venus, from Orion, from Sirius, and they were showing us and teaching us in many ways. And so I have very clear recall of that, and that came through in the channelings. And much of that information is in my book, Rise Up, which comes out next month. And it will be available as a PDF download on the site, lightenuptv.net. So you'll be able to buy that in the next couple weeks here. many images, pictures, photos. So, as I went, through the book here in the last, because this experience of being taken up happened about 6 months ago. And little by little, as I continue to write, as I continue to recall every day in meditation, more and more things are revealed to me about who we are as starseed beings, as multidimensional beings. I became aware here in the last few months that I could do starseed readings for people. Now, I don't want to make a career doing this, mind you, but for friends and family, I realized that I could look at someone's whole soul of who they are as an eternal soul and tell them who they are as a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way up to 12th dimensional being. Who they are, what their name is, where they are residing in this eternal now moment. We're simultaneously having these experiences. These are concurrent time and space experiences that are happening all at once. And so, I can tune these people into who they are in the Pleiades, in Arcturus, in Lyra, in Cassiopeia, you name it, even in Andromeda, even in the eternal realm, who they are as their eternal soul. So, I just discovered that I could do that. And it's very real. And it's so I guess what I'm saying is, yes, these abilities have become very much more enhanced. The knowledge and wisdom is coming through me every day. More and more comes through. My next book, this is a trilogy: Wake Up, Rise Up, and Lighten Up. Like I said, Rise Up comes out in a couple weeks. Then Lighten Up, Activating the Light Body, comes in after that. And that's where people are, can engage in initiations and activations, and they can awaken these innate gifts to do the same thing, that I'm doing and that psychics do, and, clairvoyant and clairaudient. They can awaken all these innate gifts within themselves so they can tap into the, this greater field of consciousness and download this information too.
When your friends figured out, or when you told your friends about this experience, about the missing time and being on the Arcturian ship, were they buying that story as well? Were they previous experiencers, or was this something that freaked them out because this had never happened to them before?
No, so one of my friends, particularly lived in a remote area for some time just so that he could have experiences with crafts, with beings. And he did. And he was taken aboard craft, and he was particularly, he developed a relationship with one of these Arcturian beings. And that relationship continues to this day. So definitely an experiencer who has regular contact. And then my other friend is very psychic, communicates with the highest beings, downloads phenomenal information about the cosmos, about other realms, about particularly what's happening here on planet Earth and what's going to happen, like prophecies. She herself had told me that, very, very connected to the Arcturians, and many psychics have told me that, very connected to Arcturus and the Arcturians, and, likely having a multidimensional experience as a being in Arcturus. So, this to them is just, it wasn't shocking. Although, the day after it happens, you do sit in awe and wonder, what the heck happened. And I feel blessed, and they do too. It's an honor and a privilege to be taken up by these advanced beings. And it certainly is a very special gift to be downloaded with advanced knowledge and technology. So we're very grateful.
I want to get to some questions from our audience here because they are building up a little bit. Lenora is asking, how do you feel about ghost boxes and communication with the paranormal through everything you've experienced?
I'm not familiar with ghost boxes.
It's where you have like a radio set up and it scans through the frequencies.
Oh, like on Ghost Adventures?
Yeah. Have you? I'm assuming you've never used one.
But no, I'm not. I'm not really into that. I don't really want to. I don't intentionally want to communicate with ghosts myself. I have had experiences where loved ones have passed on and have remained behind. I had to get psychic and do some, burn some sage and do some, do a ceremony to bring down some transport angels and send them into the light. But no, that's not, I don't have an interest in doing that particularly.
That's okay. We can move on here. And follow up from Lenora, she's asking, do you feel religion or spirituality have a real connection with extraterrestrials?
Absolutely. 100%. I think you read the Bible, certainly Ezekiel, Moses on the mountain. I mean, these are experiences of extraterrestrial beings. These are advanced, otherworldly beings who came down during those times to deliver, with the Ten Commandments, the burning bush, all of the Ezekiel in particular. It sounds exactly like a visitation from a large craft. Yes. So the answer is a clear and definitive yes. These are, advanced beings from other realms coming to visit us for a very special reason, to, inspire us, to enlighten us, Jesus, to let us know that we are both human and divine, that we are all, of and from the same divine source. Yes.
Catalina is asking, is it true planet Earth is in a lockdown, no ships coming in or out right now? Have you heard from your experiences or your guides that you have talked to about it?
No, I haven't heard that, and there's been a lot of sightings recently, so I wouldn't tend to believe that was true.
Destry is asking, Suzanne, do you channel any Egyptian gods?
Well, the very first being that I channeled in my automatic writing experience was Ra. The automatic writing spelled out R-A. And what I understand about Ra or Group Ra is that they were a group of advanced beings, possibly from the sixth dimension, once residing on Venus, who came down during the time of Egypt to walk amongst us and teach us the Law of One. Now, I'm a big fan of the Law of One series. I interviewed Carla Ruckert from her bedside before she passed, and got directly from Carla Ruckert, who channeled all of the information coming through from Group Ra in that series. And they talk about coming down at the time of Egypt. They said a group split off and went to the Mayan temples. Another group split off and went to the Himalayas. So, yes, Group Ra was present at the time of Egypt. And so I would say, yes to that answer. Now, here recently, I interviewed the only surviving member of the group who, channeled Group Ra the Law of One series, Jim McCarty, and you can go to lightenuptv.net to tune into that interview.
Follow-up from Destry, was Toth among that group?
I do have Thoth on my shrine space and have been making an effort to tune into him and, for him to come through me and channeling. But no, I haven't specifically channeled Thoth.
All right. Dawn has a question on Periscope. She is asking, have you ever seen any upside-down light bulb-shaped UFOs, or do you have any knowledge of them?
No,
Dawn,
I have not.
You know what's interesting about Dawn? I have to say this. She lives about 1 mile away from me, if that. She can go out her front yard. I can go out my backyard, look in the exact same area where she is looking, and I won't see a thing. And for her, this craft or whatever craft she is seeing will do some incredible, incredible maneuvers and light shows. And I'm looking in the same area and not seeing a damn thing. I'm getting ripped off here. Ripped off!
I do think some people can, really see beyond that, interdimensional veil, just better than others. It's a gift.
Have you ever used anything, and this question comes from above, forgive me, I forget who asked, and I'm trying to scroll up here. Nova is asking, and Nova, by the way, thank you for catching my speech in San Francisco. Thank you so much. She's wondering if you would recommend, in order to tune in more, someone to try out ayahuasca or psilocybin in order to connect.
I can only speak for me personally. I have no interest in taking any type of drugs. I have no interest in taking any type of hallucinogenics. I am able to tune in just fine by connecting through meditation. I think, for me personally, I feel it's healthier not to take any sort of drugs, especially long-term or regularly. I've had friends who've taken ayahuasca too regularly and, they're missing their back teeth because just too much acid and bile coming up on a regular basis. That just can't be healthy for your digestive system, to be vomiting profusely from, and also, that's just a sign that your body is rejecting this toxin that you're putting in. But I do understand that people have taken these and seen things they wouldn't otherwise see. A big fan of Ram Dass and Timothy Leary, and I know that's kind of how they got started, is taking psilocybin, and they were able to see things they wouldn't have otherwise seen. And it really inspired, Ram Dass, who finally said, enough. I'm not going to take this anymore, but I'm going to go on a spiritual quest to India and meet my guru, so it sent him off on a life of, incredible spiritual revelation. So just speaking for myself, no.
Let's get to another question. Eric with a K wants for you to explain what happened during the Borrego Mist event.
Thank you, Eric. Eric is such a good friend of mine. He's just was staying here for about a week at my house, and we had so much fun. I'm hoping he moves here to Sedona very soon. Yeah, so I lived in, this is a great question. And I talk about this in my book, Wake Up, which is available on Amazon. So 25 years ago, I was living on the East Coast, working in the corporate world, and very unhappy, miserable in the extreme. And I went on vacation in the desert in Borrego Springs, California. Now, when I got there, I was having the time of my life and, really felt like I had come home. I did not want to go back to the East Coast. One morning, I woke up and it just was so overwhelming to me that I was going to have to go back. To my horrible horrible job that I hated, and I did not like living on the East Coast, and I just woke up with this, sense of impending doom, and I was really compelled to run toward the mountains. So I ran toward the mountains. I ran straight up this mountainside at the crack of dawn. This is what's on the cover of my book, Wake Up, because when I got to the top of the mountain, I threw my arms up, looked up to the sky, and I just said, I am miserable in the extreme, and I see no way out. And in that moment, this booming voice came over me. It was within me and all around me. And the voice said, can't you see you've come home? You will stay here and heal yourself and many others. And you are loved more than you can possibly imagine. And in that moment, the entire atmosphere was filled with the most luminous white light. And when I came to, after being bathed in this white light and hearing this booming voice, I was on my hands and knees. And I looked around and I realized that I was different. My body felt more luminous. I was ecstatic. I was very enthusiastic about my new life in the desert as a healer. There was no doubt in my mind that this was a divine message aligning me with my true calling. Mind you, before I was miserable. And in the next moment, I was ecstatic. And so I ran down the mountain. And for the next 2 weeks, I was just following the energy of setting up my new life in the desert. And just like the voice said I would, I stayed in the desert. I opened a wellness center. I stayed there and healed myself and many others. And it was a very profound experience for me. During that time in the desert, my father, who, mind you, had the ET experience of lost time when he was just 18 years old and had the metallic shaped triangular object in his wrist. And the two of us would take long walks in this desert. Now, I'm going to tell you, the desert is a misty, magical place. Anybody who spent any time in the wide open desert, it's mystical. And so we would take these long walks and he would just tell me things like, that the grays are just us coming back from the future. And I was really dead. Okay. So we would talk about otherworldly beings. We would talk about ETs and UFOs. And one day we were walking and it was a bright, sunny, blue day. And we came around the corner and suddenly it was shadowy, misty, cold. And we felt like we were being watched. We felt like eyes were all around us. And then we noticed on the floor of the desert, there was a huge circle that was blackened out. And leading up to the circle was a long trail. And it looked as if something had landed. And I don't know if it was on fire or magnetism of the craft, but it left this long black streak which ended in a big blackened circle. And as we looked at it, we kind of looked at each other, very much feeling like there were eyes on us. And then suddenly it just felt creepy. And we both wanted to get out of there. And my dad looked at me and he said, let's just get out of here. And as soon as he said that, it was like a bright blue, sunny, hot day again. And so we called that the alien landing strip from then on. But that was just one of the many experiences my dad and I had during that time out in Borrego Springs.
Incredible. Incredible. That just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Have you heard of one of these popular terms that I just learning about was, and it came up quite a bit at the UFO con, was about the Zendras. Have you heard or participated in any of those?
Zendras? I don't even recognize the term, no.
Well, it's about a mist or a fog. When you get a bunch of people kind of sitting around and meditating towards this, it develops this mist or a fog that's almost like a portal that opens up. And when you walk through, aliens will be on the other side waiting for you or something along those lines. I'm not too familiar with it because all of us literally were saying, what the hell is a Zendra? But I can't get it out of my mind now. I just can't. I want to try this. I want to try this.
Yeah, that's very cool. And next time Eric comes, we'll get some people to over here and we'll sit around and create a misty portal.
I want to get to a question from Catherine. She is asking, what is the number one, where is it here? What is the number one message you deliver for others from your channeling with ETs?
That we are both human and divine, that we are all of and from the same divine source. We are that. And we have that divine spark within us. We have so many powerful gifts innate within us, and we can activate those gifts. We can engage. In my book, Rise Up, at the end of every chapter, there's an initiation, there's an activation, there's a meditation. I take you through lucid dreaming experiences. This is how we awaken those gifts. This is how we activate that dormant DNA. There's no such thing as junk DNA. That is dormant DNA just waiting to be activated so that we can become these powerful beings that are capable of doing and being anything that we desire. With the power of our intention, I believe we can manifest anything that we desire that serves the highest good with the pure intention of serving. So, we need to wake humanity up to that fact. And I am determined to do that, and I wake up every day determined to inspire, empower, and enlighten humanity through my shows, through my books, because I dearly love the human race. And I'm here on a mission. All of the galactic brothers and sisters who are of the benevolent star races dearly love the human race. And we are a species worth saving. So the more of us that rise up and step into our power, the more we can save the human race, the more we can save Mother Earth, the more we can override the darker forces that are upon us. We can take down the cabal. We can defend ourselves against any negative forces, against any alien forces that may not be friendly, because we have the power to do that. And we have these very powerful, benevolent star races on our side. And they want to come and land and walk amongst us as family and friends and guides and the inner earth beings to emerge and walk amongst us. This is the golden age that is coming onto our planet, and we can herald it in. We can be those pioneers on the front lines. I truly believe that. I love everyone on this planet. I shine the light of love on everyone, even the fallen angels, even the darker forces. Let's shine the light on all of God's children. This is how we awaken not just this planet, but the entire solar system, the galaxy, and beyond.
We only got about 3 minutes left. I want to sneak Peter's question in here. Suzanne, do you believe ancient Lyra still exists, or do you think it was destroyed during the Lyran Wars? Have you been tipped off to that?
No. Although I can tell you that it was only a few months ago that a Lyran aspect of myself came through me during a meditation out on the front lawn, and I started speaking in a Lyran language, and this being came through and said, I am Larensi, and I am from Lyra. And she came through with a powerful message that I had to request be translated. So beings from Lyra are still coming through. I have other friends who speak in, the Lyran star languages. So they're alive and well in some realm.
In the 2 minutes that we have left with you tonight, I want to say thank you for coming on and being a part of this. I want to hit you up for one more question in regards to hybrids. There's a lot of hybrid talk in the field these days. Do you believe that you are contributing to the hybrid program from ETs, or have you talked to them about that?
No. I'm more focused on starseed beings, that we have been seeded by many different star races. So, Earthling and Pleiadian and Orion and, Arcturian. So I don't know if you would consider that a hybrid being when you have a being with many different starseed, DNAs, but that's not a real focus for me necessarily, but starseed beings for sure.
And with that, I think take a minute here to once again run down all of the ways people could get a hold of you and where they could see you and get your books.
Thank you. I love for people to reach out and communicate with me. So please feel free to email me at Suzanne Ross, SUZANNEROSS 64 at yahoo.com. Please visit my website, www.lightenuptv.net. Many tabs on that site. Please click on them all and see everything that we talk about there. I will be speaking at a big event here coming up in Sedona called Cosmic Awakening, April 20th, 21st, and 22nd at the Creative Life Center. It's going to be a phenomenal event. You can also visit my website, SuzanneRossWellness.com, to see my books, and then you can also purchase workshops based on my books there. And on that site, there are a lot of free audio meditations and visualizations.
Wonderful, Suzanne. Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was such a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks so very much.
Excellent. Coming up in hour number 3, we're going to talk Zendras and contact with ETs. Eric with a K, yes, the Awakening Man, is going to join me, and we're going to get to the thought of the Dave as well right after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on spacedoutradio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you're seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at spacedoutradio.com.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the SOR Paranormal Roundtable. I'm going to invite in some friends. We're going to talk about the month that was in the strange and the weird. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell did not set a password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, so we have no password for tonight. Feeling kind of naked without it. Bill usually sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to join us on social media, we are all over the place, including watching us live on periscope.tv every Monday through Friday night. We thank everyone who is tuning in there as well. Now, if you want to join us on our website, where we have a plethora of features, it's spacedoutradio.com. You can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, rock out to some Bumblefoot, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Hour number 3 here, we have Eric with a K, the Awakening Man, coming on in. My friend, it was such a good time to meet you at UFOCon 2018. What a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for everything that you did for me there.
That was awesome. I enjoyed it. Now you know why I got the fever. You probably heard me I try not to sound like I'm bragging, but I just love going to these conferences. So, I mean, I've been to probably 12 or 15 of them in the last year and a half, and I love it. I get energized from them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was a very social aspect as well, where we got to meet up with some really cool people, and, you know, it was kind of cool going for lunch or going for dinner, not only with yourself, but with people like Grant Cameron or Melinda Leslie or Misha Johnson, just sitting down at the table and shooting the breeze about everything that's kind of strange and weird about what's going on. It made for a lot of fun, and, you know, I'm glad I had the opportunity to go, that's for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, you got to agree that for me, and I'm going to guess for you too, is we hear people talk on the radio, maybe we see their YouTube videos, but there's something to be said for when you actually meet somebody in person, you look them in the eye, you observe their body language, you listen to how they speak, you watch how they interact with other people, and your natural innate intuition will tell you to what degree that you may believe that person is sincere or real or genuine, and then that elevates your level of belief, or whatever that person might be sharing. You will form a stronger bond with that vision that they have. You know what I'm saying? Did you get that feeling at all?
I did. And, you know, for me, it was about acceptance. And, you know, when you're stuck way up high here in British Columbia like I am, you feel so far away from everything that is going on. So, you know, for a lot of these participants to be including me in things, it was a really warm feeling, my friend. It was a real warm feeling. And, you know, to have some Spaced Out Radio listeners there like yourself and Teresa and Tessa, who got to experience it all with me as well, you know, it just made it very, very comfortable, because I went down alone. I really didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, you know, how people were going to treat me. I didn't know if I would get the brush off. Oh, hey, Dave, how you doing? And, you know, not see them for the rest of the weekend. But to be socially accepted into that group, I'll tell you, it was like, it was a real coming out party. You know what I'm saying? It was a real coming out party.
It's great. I think that the timing for you right now, I mean, I'm sure it's obvious to you, but for me as a fan and a friend, I'm observing, and I just see everything's coming together for you. And so I'm excited for you. I think that your story is very riveting and it's very truthful, and you do a great job on your radio show. And I understand you got some TV things coming out. So just keep your head on straight, and I think that great things are coming your way.
Well, hopefully it continues. Hopefully it continues, because it's a lot of fun, and it was. Like I said to our listeners on Monday night when I got back, and I was dead tired on Monday night. I could barely keep my eyes open. And, but like I said then, and I'll just quickly repeat it now, it was funny because not so much the fellow guests that were there, but the people who came to watch the event really didn't know who I was. And, they kind of walk by me, they check out the name tag. Well, I don't really know who this guy is, so no point in really talking to him. And then after I spoke, well, you saw it, I got absolutely mobbed. I got mobbed.
That's how it works, man. It's a club. You got to go through the rituals. Until you gave your talk, you hadn't completed your rituals, and then once you gave your talk, you were instantly initiated. I loved it. That was great. Oh, Dave, it was fun. You had them raising their hand. You guys they were clapping, they were laughing, they were engaged in your story, because your story is unique. I mean, I personally have not heard of the plethora of events that you've experienced by any other person. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. I love stories, but your stories are unique. And I think because you're in Canada, it kind of puts you in a different light, which I think you can use to your advantage here in the United States.
I'll tell you, I was a little weirded out by the standing ovation. I don't really know what I did there, but I was a little weirded out by that. And so it was something that I was, extremely stunned by. That's for sure. I don't think I'll forget that moment for a long time.
Well, it's because there's a sense that people have, that most of those people in there were experiencers, whether you realize it or not, that when somebody's speaking from the heart, and because you had no script, you didn't have anything on a board, you were coming from your heart, they sensed that, and so they were applauding you because that was their way of saying, we believe you, we accept you, we trust you. And that's my interpretation of what happened.
Well, we did try and get them involved, by the show of hands. Yeah. And, trying to keep them as part of it as well. And that's the same thing we do with the show. We like to get people involved during the show and get their questions into our guests and make them feel really a part of what we are doing. And, it was really cool, man. Honestly, it was really cool to see everything kind of going on the way it was and the way it was set up. And, we'll see where it goes from here. I know we have, Nova in Periscope right now. She watched the conference, and she's now turned into a fan viewing what we do. And, that means the world, man. That means the absolute world.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is in marketing. I mean, I forget, I think Dale Carnegie had that system, that pyramidal system where, you got 10 people, and then they tell 10 people, and then they tell 10 people, and before you know it, you've got an army. That's how it works. And I think that people like to hear what you got to say. You have great guests. You do a great job. I know it sounds like I'm just stroking you, but I mean, it's reality. I mean, you do. I'm excited. I think that I'm just looking forward to it. I enjoy, like, you give me the opportunity to call in and talk. Because, I've got I just don't have the discipline to have my own show. I mean, I enjoy just calling and talking to you, and that's plenty for me. So if I could share my stories and experiences with you, then that's great. I'm happy about that.
There was a number of people, Eric, during that conference that talked about Zendras. We heard it from Misha Johnson. We heard it from Melinda Leslie, Grant Cameron, Enrique Villanueva had a great speech on it as well. Are you buying this Zendra stuff?
Honestly, I haven't had a moment to even look at it yet. So I just feel like I'm backlogged right now. There's all this stuff that I want to research, and the Zendras interest me. I think what Suzanne Ross talked about her experience with the mist, and she didn't have time to really tell you about some other experiences that she had shared with me personally. that where there was always mist involved. And so I think there's got to be some truth to that. And because Suzanne was out there with her father, who was obviously a generational experience, her family, her not only her father and her mother, she didn't get a chance to talk about her mother. But anyway, yes, I think there's probably truth to it. But, until sometimes these things come out and you just got a little time go by, and eventually it all vets itself. You know what I mean? It all vets itself.
So for people wondering what a Zendra is, it's a little bit like a portal. It may not be quite the same thing, but it exhibits the same type of interdimensionality of beings moving from one world to another, and they allow you to kind of come on in and have that experience. So it kind of happens through an energy circle, I'm assuming, and from there, this mist will show up. And when you enter that mist, that's what brings beings out of it, and people are going into it to see what is truly on the other side. It's just mind-blowing. I would love to try this. And I'm going to talk to Grant Cameron about this, because I know he was blown away by it too. And with him coming up to Caribou Paracon, September 28th to 30th, up here in British Columbia, I'm wondering if we should try and get one of these things going.
Yeah, I'm 99%. I'm gonna go ahead and make the effort to get my passport. I already have one, but I lost it, so I got to go down and get that whole thing held. But I want to come. I haven't been to Canada. I've got some friends up there, so I'm gonna make an effort, 100%, to try to get there. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're definitely going to see, and I'm wondering if we could get things going on that. Because there's some strange, weird stuff happening here. I don't know if it's a conjured portal. That was asked by Noelle in the Periscope chat room. Thank you, Noelle, for tuning us in for the first time, I believe. Really do appreciate that. But the whole idea behind these types of portals, I mean, I'm wondering if there's, it's human nature to wonder what kind of danger could be with conjuring up some sort of portal that is connected to ET beings from wherever else they may be. And is it that simple?
Yeah, I personally, I would not go into a portal with mist. I don't care. I would not be, I'm just going to tell you right out now, I'm not going to be a part of that. However, when I went to Sedona and I stayed with John Polk, and we went hiking. I said, I've heard about these portals. You know where they are? He says, yes, I know where one is. And so we took a drive and we went hiking into the Red Rocks. And he took me to this area where all the trees were literally twisted and growing several times around like a spinning top, just twisted. I've never seen a tree ever that grew like that. And it's all in this little area. And I, yeah, it's the twisted trees. I'm not even thinking in my head, oh, it's a portal. But he says, no, we're in the portal. This is it right here. That's why these trees are growing this way. So he goes, go touch the tree. So I went up and I touched the tree, and I literally could feel, it wasn't an obvious change, but there was a change that I felt, a shift and an energy. There was a change in the energy. And I thought, wow, this is kind of trippy. So then I said, I'm going to walk down here 20 feet to this other area where there's no twisted trees and see if I notice a difference. And so I did that, and it went right back to the normal feeling. So there was something connected to that tree and the fact that we were in this portal. And anyway, I just think that, I wouldn't mess with the mist, though. Personally, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to play that.
Oh, I think I'm going.
Okay.
I'll take
videotape it. I'll videotape it.
Well, if you're videotaping it, you got to come in with me. You got to come in with me.
No.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you go first. You come back and report to me, and then we'll see on the second round. Maybe I'll think about it.
What if Carl is there? Maybe that's my way of getting through to Carl and saying, hey, Carl, it's time to go for a ride. Maybe that's the way I got to do it. I got to go into one of these Zendras and check out what's on the other side. I'm definitely going.
Well, when you get out here, next time you get some chance to spend more time out here, there's I'm coming up with a presentation that I'll share. I'm not going to share all the details right now, but there is a extraterrestrial space highway that goes from New Mexico, from Roswell, all the way through areas of New Mexico into Arizona, through the Superstition Mountains, through all the ancient Indian mountains and burial grounds, all the way into Phoenix, to where we just had there was a sighting there a month ago where a saucer flew over two planes, American Airlines and another plane. And anyway, I don't know if you heard about that, but there is a pathway all the way to the Mojave Desert that I've got it all mapped out. I don't have time to explain it all right now, but when I do, you're going to see a pathway. These beings, whoever they are, that are traveling the Phoenix Lights, there's a pathway, and there's been multiple sightings for many, many years along this pathway. I don't think anyone's really brought that out yet, so that's the project I'm working on right now.
That's very interesting, man. Very interesting. Where do you think they're coming in? Do you think they are coming in via some sort of portal in Sedona? I mean, we heard Suzanne's story. Melinda Leslie does her UFO tours there as well. And I'm wondering if you think that there is just something special about that area. You've been there. You stayed there for a couple of months.
It's majestic, dude. I'm just telling you, it's bizarre because when you go to, for example, Sedona and the Red Rocks, I mean, there's this massive, the Bell Rock. There's all sorts of red rocks. These you look at these mountains, and the first thing that comes to your mind, if you just eliminate all filters, is this is where the gods live, because they're like castles. They're supernatural. I mean, the shapes and the forms and the majestic quality of them. It's just, you just got to figure that this was something that was happening here that was not happening in most other places in the world. And then what's interesting is I would be hiking in Bell Rock, and I could look across the desert, and maybe 50 miles away, and there's just these standard brown, normal shaped mountains, I call them standard mountains that you see in most places that have no special qualities. They're just big brown mountains, but yet 50 miles completely on the other side, there's this massive red rocks. So this is a portal, just like Suzanne was saying, the crystal and the rocks. Yes, there's definitely, I'm guessing that these things come in through these various portals. I'm sure there's some in New Mexico. There's no doubt about it. There's some in Arizona. There's definitely some in the California deserts. That's why the Air Force builds their bases near Mojave, and you got Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, there's, and then if you go on Google Earth and you try to view these bases, they're blacked out all the way out to Rachel, Nevada, where the little alien is. There's Area 51 just beyond in those areas. It's pretty obvious to me. I'm looking forward to putting this presentation together, so I might one day just do it. I'm thinking that this is interesting, that people need to know this information.
And I know there's a couple of people asking, Dave, are you going to do a show on Xanders? I am going to try and line that up. I am fascinated by this. Absolutely fascinated. And I want to do this. And I want to know how I can do this in my area, because there's some pretty wild and crazy stuff that happens up here, and I want to make sure that I have the ability to do this in a safe manner as well, because it does come down to safety. I don't want to open it up and all of a sudden Godzilla walks through and starts chomping down on people. You know what I'm saying? Don't want any of that. Yeah. Don't want any of that at all.
Well, have you researched, are there portals in your area? I'm guessing you've researched that already.
You know what? There's a couple that are known. I live on a very volcanic area. Okay, so there is a dormant volcano about 20-minute drive from where I am, and it's been dormant for over 1 million years. But I mean, if we go by the theory of extraterrestrials and UFOs, all right, they seem to attract some sort. Oh, what the hell is happening above me? I think one of the dogs is jumping.
Oh, Carl! I thought maybe Carl.
No, it ain't Carl. I'm not feeling Carl's energy tonight. But being in a volcanic area, I mean, we have to look at the idea that there are theories, especially on the Pacific Coast here, that these UFOs, or a lot of them, are attracted to the energy that that is brought on by these natural phenomena. And whether it's dormant or not, I really don't think they care, because in my area there are a plethora of UFO sightings and ET contactees around here.
I love that, a plethora. Well, let me share this with you, which I don't know that you or any of your listeners know this, but where I live in San Luis Obispo Valley, right near the coast, we have what are called the Seven Sisters. And these are 7 volcanoes that are now no longer active, but it's right near the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant in Avila Beach, which is right on the central coast of San Luis Obispo. So there is activity out here. I mean, I'm not out there looking every night, but I've seen things, but nothing dramatic. But I've seen some things out here. I think they definitely come in and out of these mountains. They're probably bases that they use. I'm going to have to guess. I could be wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm not too sure about it. I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure that if there are portals big enough around here, the only portals that I've truly heard of is south of me, about, I'm going to say 35, 40-minute drive. There's a small town called Clinton, and apparently there is a portal or 2 in that area that are very, very powerful gateways, according to the local First Nations. And apparently there are a lot of UFO sightings around there, like this entire area along the Gold Rush Trail. I mean, we got the 2 things that, if you theorize about it, we got 2 of the properties here that attract UFOs. I mean, there's a lot of gold in the mountains, and we have the volcanic activity. And people who have studied this, much more knowledgeable than I, have stated that those are 2 properties on Earth that seem to attract UFOs.
It's obvious to me, especially in Arizona, and where you are too, as you go, these are ancient Indian ruins, and these people, there's no doubt in my mind, it's strictly on the petroglyphs and the stories that you see that there was, ET interaction. And they talk about the ant people here, and the Anunnaki being the ant people that came in and during the great floods and took humans into the caves, deep in dwellings in the inner earth, and preserved them until, they probably have similar stories in Canada, but based on Clifford Mahooty, who I spent a lot of time with, many hours just sitting and talking, and I'm convinced that is the history. That's the real history. That's not the history we're going to read in our history books, though.
I tell you, some strange happening out there, my friend. Strange happening out there. And it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on with this, because as much as we maybe don't want to admit it or don't even want to believe in it, Eric, I was surprised, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this, with how much during the UFO con it came out about the word consciousness. And I think that's something that needs to be tapped into a little bit more.
Well, it's 100% what needs to be tapped into, because, it's weird, because when I first got on Twitter a little over 2 years ago, I wasn't really sure what I was going to pick as my Twitter name. And I kind of thought, well, what's happening? What's the process that I'm going through? And I thought, well, I'm kind of awakening to a new reality. So I thought awakening, and then I thought man, and then that was me. But the reality is that consciousness is the awakening process. And then for me personally, when you get to the part where you don't have fear anymore, where you're not the fact, okay, whether there's extraterrestrials or UFOs and so on and so forth, none of that bothers you. You're not afraid. Then I think you're getting to that awoke part. So that's part of consciousness. That's why we need people to understand that it's safe. It's safe to be conscious, because we have been programmed as a society to be unconscious through this, through whether it's television or whether it's 5G or whether it's through MK Ultra programs that have just kind of offshot, into. There's so many variations of MK Ultra through television and through Hollywood and through in rituals. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we have to seek consciousness. I think that's the number one. That should be the number one goal right now is consciousness.
Do you buy into the fact that people are using consciousness to fly these craft or to create contact throughout Zendras and so on and so forth? Are you buying that theory, or does it sound a little bit too hokey?
Well, what was that movie that you recommended several days ago to go watch? I was on YouTube.
The Flight of the Navigator.
I watched that movie. That was a fantastic movie, by the way. And I think that if you think about it, okay, some people are under the theory that we are aliens, that aliens are us. In other words, that some people think the Greys are us in the future. I mean, there's a lot of theories, but somehow we're all connected with these. We're all one in a sense. Like Suzanne was saying, our DNA is not junk. It's just not activated. The point is we're just we're connected. I just think we need to realize that at this point, anything's possible. Any reality that's presented, we need to just, if we don't want to accept it immediately, we need to at least put it in a compartment and leave it there. And let's see if it gets reintroduced again at another point by another person that's experiencing it from another perspective. And we need more evidence. I mean, I'm a skeptic, but there's a lot of things I'll tend to believe, but I'm not going to give my 100%, check mark on. But if you're going with my intuition is going to say, yes, I believe that, or yes, I feel that, but I'm not going to sign a contract 100% saying that this is a fact. I can't prove any of this as a fact, right? Can we prove any of this as a fact? I mean, really?
Well, and I think that's a danger, and I think that's why a lot of people, Eric, are having troubles trying to figure that out. And when they hear people, not just Grant Cameron or people like that, but when they hear about researchers, say within the group of To the Stars and Robert Bigelow, seriously looking into all of this consciousness, like it's an important and integral part of their own investigation in trying to figure out what is going on. There has to be something more to look at this. We got some pretty brilliant people. Love or hate To the Stars, it doesn't matter. They have a brilliant-minded team, and this brilliant-minded team is looking into that category of consciousness on how these craft are flying.
I think they can be flown by extraterrestrials using consciousness. I think if you go back to what David Adair said, what his experience was going back to 1971, which is, to me, the best evidence. I personally believe 100% that he was able to experience this craft that was buried deep in Area 51 out there near S4, that was in the ground, that was massive, that was like a living, sentient craft. It looked like a UFO, but he said it was like alive, and it was so yes, I think that if, for example, if our particular cosmic DNA is connected to a certain race that flies these craft in such a way where they use their consciousness, then maybe they're trying to teach us to do the same thing. Maybe that's the future of space travel. I think within 20 years, we're going to have the answers to all these questions, and probably sooner. But I certainly think by 2035, all the answers to all these questions that we're asking right now will be answered.
All right, so the big debate in Periscope right now is about the Zendras. Gail says, we may have to save Dave from his plan to go in one. No, Dave's going to be just fine. I'll tie a rope around my waist, and if you gotta all of a sudden start pulling, and I'll come out. Just put a dog leash on. That's maybe the right way.
Dave, you're a rebel. Dave, you're a rebel cosmic traveler.
Well,
there's no doubt about it.
Well, you know what it is, okay? I'm not saying that, and I want to clarify. I'm not saying it to be brave or to, seem so risque or anything like that. That's not what it's about, man. What it's really about is trying to figure out my own experiences. Trying to figure out what's going on. And if I got to enter one of those in order to find out, I'm going to do it. I totally want to.
I get it. But you're already past step 1, 2, 3. You're ready for the next step. For most of your listeners, we haven't even been to step 1 or maybe step 2. So you're ready. I mean, I see that. I think that if I were you, I would probably have the same attitude you have.
It's progression, man. That's why like I say, that's why I say to people point blank, like I want to go on a ship. I know I've been taken. I want to go visually. Like I'm awake right now. If Carl knocked on the door and said, "Hey, come with me. We're going for a flight." I'm gone. I'm absolutely gone. Because I need to.
At this point,
I need
with
to.
You. Yeah. And you know what? If you don't come back, whatever. So what, right?
Absolutely. Well,
your spirit will live on in the cosmos.
Yeah. Absolutely. Why not? Why not go?
And you know what? And Eric Markham and Everett and all the crew, we'll take over the show. If you don't come back, we'll just kind of keep it warm for you. And maybe like Travis Walton, in a week or so, you'll show up and everything will be back to normal.
You never know. Or maybe they just bring me back to 2 hours later. I don't know. But I want to do this. I want to. I have to. You know what I'm saying? I have to do this.
I'll tell you what. I'll arrange for you to come to Sedona. We'll make a deal off the air. I'll arrange for you to come to Sedona, and you can come and stay at Suzanne's house, and we'll call them, and we'll make it happen for you. You're ready. She'll make it happen. I'm serious.
Well, I'm not worried about seeing UFOs in the sky. I could see that. I want to go to. I might have to, get a hold of Enrique or somebody like that, and actually, maybe Grant Cameron, and say, look, I got to do one of these Zendra things. Like I feel like I am being pushed to do this. I feel like I have to do this. Like that is the next step in my evolution of learning why the hell my happily boring life came to an end. I want to do this, man.
Okay, so check this out. I'll be your agent. Let's do a Zendra documentary. Dave Scott, the Zendra experience. We'll document the whole experience. We'll sell it to Netflix or Amazon, and then you won't ever have to worry about money again. But then you can still do your show and have fun anyway. How does that sound?
Well, that is something to think. That is something to think about.
It is. You better think about it.
Totally something to think about. But I can tell you this. I think for a lot of people who have gone past that stage, I think it's time. And you know what? It could be nothing. It could be just energy forming, and that's what causes the fog. Or maybe it's the time that they are doing it where fog naturally occurs. I don't know. I'm looking for some sort of logical answer. But, like Kimba says in Periscope, Dave, if something's calling you, you have to go. Oh, I got to do this. I have to see what's going on. And I equate it to a lot of people. When I said we were going to do on Halloween night in 2016, we were going to do a live Ouija board session. I got a lot of backlash on that, but I did it. We did it, and we did it again last Halloween. We did it. We absolutely did it. And nothing happened. We were protected. Karen Dahlman protected us. She protected the listeners. She protected the studio and everybody involved. And I felt good about it, and I'll be doing it again this coming Halloween as well.
Well, if you got protected, and you trusted the protector, then that's all good. I could go with that.
Exactly. So with this Zendra stuff, I got to try this out. I really got to try this out. Like, I'm geeked up to do this. I'm almost as geeked up about this as I am the television show.
Well, listen, if you're serious about this and you want to have potentially the most positive experience possible, Palm Springs, which is, I'll talk to you off air. You really, honestly, at this point, if I was, let's say, your agent or your handler, I would say you need to go to Contact in the Desert in the first week of June. You need to figure out a way. We need to get you out there because you need to see the desert. And I could take you to Borrego, where Suzanne Ross had her experience with the mist. And we can maybe make arrangements for you, this experience to occur. And she had a positive experience. It changed her life. I mean, if you remember, she said 25 years ago, that changed her life. And that's why she's evolved to where she's at now. If you're going to do it, you want to go for the positive. You don't want to shoot for the negative, right?
Well, exactly. I got to talk to Grant Cameron here pretty quickly and just see what's going on with him, because I got to thank him. But I'm going to talk to him about this. I want to have a good conversation with him and just say, Grant, I need to do this. I really need to do this, and see what he thinks. And as soon as I can get some information on when they're going to be doing this again, whether I got to travel down to Mount Shasta, or we can even figure out if we can try it up here during the Caribou Paracon, I say we do it. If we can do it up here, let's do it.
I'll be a witness. I mean, like I said, I'll stand back far enough to where I could Periscope it live. We'll do a YouTube live. We'll sell tickets for $10. Dave Periscope. Dave's going into the mist.
That would be kind of cool.
Details at 11.
That would be kind of cool.
It would be awesome.
I couldn't.
I'd pay $10 in a heartbeat.
I know, but you know what? I couldn't rip my listeners off like that. You know, maybe the non-listeners who are checking it out for the first time, sure. Yeah. But the regulars, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, they get a special code. They could sign in with a special passcode, like the Spaced Out Radio special passcode for free access. Exactly. But everybody else that doesn't know they don't know the secret handshake. They can't get in. They got to pay $10.
Absolutely. If you don't know the secret handshake, you got to pay. What was your favorite part of UFO Con, my friend?
Wow, Jesus, there's so many. But I don't know if you saw me talking to that one older guy with the kind of the gray hair that you might have chatted with him. He was the targeted individual guy. Do you remember that conversation at all with that guy?
Yes. He had a good mustache. Yeah. Very good mustache.
Well, there's several people that go. It's weird because, it's not weird, but to some of these conferences, depending on where they are, you'll get a cross of people that are ET experiencers, but also people that not only are ET experiencers, but have become targeted individuals, and they were involved in military families, and they were chipped. And so they're they're having a multitude of experiences, a plethora of experiences. At 11:41, it's not too late to take one more drink, folks, a plethora of experiences. But these people are real. I mean, I met them a year ago. I met them again this year. They stand out of my mind. Some of these people, they're in the crowd. They're not people that interact. They just and then afterwards they'll go sit on the couch and they don't talk to anybody. But if you go sit next to them, eventually they just can't help themselves, but they start to tell you what's going on. And that's where I get a lot of information is these people that sit in the audience and they're just kind of quiet, and you don't know whether they're there for just the entertainment of it or they're there to learn or what they're there for. But if you just sit and talk with them, a lot of very interesting stories come out. So anyway, that's the part I like most the best part, the highlight was this was Grant Cameron, I think, going up in the elevator and then getting to the top, and then we were going to go step our own ways, and we started chatting, and we're sitting there, and like 45 minutes or an hour went by, and it was cool because Grant shared with me all these like detailed things about what he's doing, almost like he was kind of passing on information as a researcher, because he knew that. I told him, hey, I'm a junior researcher. I've only been doing this for a few years. I don't know nearly as much as you do, but I'm curious. So anything you're comfortable sharing with me, and if you tell me something and you want me to keep it confident, I will. But he shared a lot of interesting things. So I just think it's great because we need to share. We need to get out there and share. And that's part of consciousness, is awakening and providing all the information for everybody to look at.
I fully agree with you. And I think my favorite part was, even the way it closed. I mean, almost 3 hours of Steve Bassett talking about every little fine detail with a fine-tooth comb about disclosure. No wonder they put him last, because Lorian Fenton, that is, knew that he was going to go well over any time that he was actually scheduled, and he was only scheduled for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I thought that was...
He threatened 3.5 hours. It was at least 3.
Gail is asking if I ever talked to the spook. Yes, I did. Eric with a K and I had a very intriguing conversation with the spook, and I'm still a little bit wondering what department, because she did not have any type of experiences whatsoever. She was just there because she has an interest in everything. But we'll see where it goes.
She was the perfect spook, though. She was, seriously, she was beautiful. She had this like reddish blonde hair, kind of like I don't know what you call that kind of hair, but it was beautiful. And she's just very fit, and obviously, and she was very quiet. She was a great listener, and she never kind of crossed any boundaries. But yet she would hang out and talk for an hour or 2 or 3. I don't know. It was very intriguing. I found her very interesting. Very interesting.
I agree with that as well. Hope she's not listening now. We may have given her up.
Well, I hope she is. I just thought, anyway, we can't talk about that on the air, but there's other thoughts that I'll keep private. But she reminded me of the modern day. Okay, think about this. The X-Files of Dana and Scully, right? Yes. Didn't she remind you of like a modern day San Francisco version, right?
Yes.
Totally?
Yes, totally.
It was God. It was almost Twilight Zone-like. I was shocked. I mean, for them to send a woman like that into that conference, like a movie, definitely an hour special can be made on that whole experience all by itself.
It was very intriguing indeed. Intriguing indeed. So, it's something that, Lorian usually gets a spook or two at her conference, and whether or not she was or not, we'll never know. We can only assume, let's be honest, we can only assume. But it just felt that way. And I'm going with my instincts, but that's okay. I'm very much good with that. You ready for the thought of the day, Dave?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Crank that music up. Crank it up.
All right. Oh, feel it. There it is.
Bumblefoot. Bring that Bumblefoot.
Oh, just an incredible song. Gail loves Cuterebra. Every night at this time, we get to the Thought of the Day, where I post a question on my Facebook page, and then we bring in you, the listeners, to get your take on it, because we absolutely love to get your opinion and get you involved in this show. So that's what we are doing right now. Now, I left it a little bit open-ended because I really thought the paranormal/UFO crowd would understand what I'm getting at, but, there's some good comments in here, and there's some very poor choice comments. But nonetheless, we're going to have some fun with this nonetheless. Are you ready, Eric with a K?
Oh, let's do it.
All right. Well, the question is, when was the last time you were taken? And I put taken in question marks, obviously stating
When's the last time you were taken by aliens? Aliens! The champ says, I never have been taken before in my life, manager. Well, that might be a good thing for you, champ. That might be a good thing. Chris says, the moment I saw my daughter's face for the first time, I was taken. Little bit off topic, but we're going to accept that one for the cute factor. Absolutely cute factor. The lip blade, David. Hopefully never. He's got a tight mustache, David. Great mustache. Eric Cooper. By off-worlders? Never. They fear the beard. I could understand that. Eric Cooper has a very, very powerful beard. Very powerful beard. Let's get to Coral. Are you talking sexually or alien-wise? I'm in a smart-arsed mood today. See, that's what I'm talking about, Eric. Little snarky. Little snarky there. Michelle says, I was taken 3 years ago. Tim, I have not, but believe. Too many incidents. Travis Walton, one of the best examples. Many others. Betty and Barney Hill. Doctor who hypnotized them separately says they believe they were, amongst others. I'm surprised that we don't have any good high-quality stories like that anymore. When do you think the last high-quality story of someone being taken was? Do you think we're beyond that now, Eric?
It's a great question. Actually, I just totally triggered a memory. The one guy, I can't think of his name. He was in the vendor room with all the old books, the old UFO books that were from the 50s and the 60s. I bought literally about 15 of them. Jacques Vallée, Bud Hopkins, all the greats from the 50s and the 60s, the original research of UFO and abductions. I've got them all. I actually read one of them already. And you mentioned Travis Walton. Most people don't know this, and I didn't know it. There were a lot of people having a lot of experiences during the 70s that were very similar to what Travis Walton experienced, but for whatever reason, his became very well known because he went missing for 5 days. Most of the other experiencers were not missing for 5 days. So I think that's what stood out. And the fact that there were 6 witnesses and they all took lie detector tests and passed them twice. Travis Walton's story right there in Arizona, by the way. Arizona's a hot spot. Let me check.
Yeah, and Snowflake there.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Let's continue on.
Go ahead.
Tessa, our good friend Tess, says, I haven't been taken as far as I know, but she just admitted in the chat room that she has had missing time. Well, where the hell did you go for that missing time? Were you at the mall or the casino or what? That's the only other way I could think of on an earthly plane. Bonnie states, I have never been abducted. Tina, I was never abducted either that I am aware of. Sure, I wake up with marks on my body I can't explain, but maybe I scratched myself. A spider or a scorpion bit me. A blood vessel popped. Not aliens, though. Oh, my God. I think she's taken. I think she's been taken. We may have a bingo here, Tina. We may have a bingo. What do you think, Eric?
Bingo.
Bingo is right.
Bingo.
Charlene says, Charlene goes to the romantic side of being taken. The moment I met my husband. Oh, I feel like I should have some rice to throw up in the air or something like that for that one.
Bingo.
Bingo. David says, I'm thinking about a little over 2 years ago. I have no concept of time frames, so I'm guessing. Milo states, I often wonder how many people get taken and never remember, dismissing it as a dream or a nightmare. Milo, see Tina's comment. She got taken. Oscar says, when was the last time you were taken, Dave? Here's a little debate going on. About a month ago, I say. Excuse him, what? He says. Jesus. And then he follows through. Get serious, Dave. And I said, when it was my reply, damn it, there were so many replies to this. I said, I am totally serious. I've been taken 4 to 5, 6 times that I recall.
He goes, can you remember everything? I said, the first one I can. There are bits and pieces of the others. Don't really know. And that continued on, so we don't need to go through that. Wow, that thread kind of took off. All right. Grant says most people who have been taken once that they are aware of have actually been taken multiple times that they are not. It's almost an invitation like red pill or blue pill for them to look into or not, depending on their level of readiness to delve down a new path. How far do you want to go down that rabbit hole, Eric with a K?
Well, I have come to the realization that the astral dreaming, whatever label you want to put on it, it's been happening quite a bit frequently for me the last few months, and the only way I can block it out, and I'm going to just be completely honest, if I have a few cocktails or in California, medical marijuana is legal. If I completely sedate myself, then I don't remember the dreams. But when I do remember the dreams, they are bizarre. So I think we are taking, whether we choose or not to choose, we are astral traveling quite often in our dreams. And that could be part of the whole equation.
Very well could be. And I am going to say this, that I did not participate in any medicinal marijuana in California. None whatsoever.
No, he did not. I concur, and I will substantiate that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, bingo. All right, let's continue on here. Lou says, last time I remember, 19 years, 6 months ago. Catherine, you naughty lass, says, I have a particular set of skills. Wow. Kelly, I know Kelly has been taken, he says, January 3rd, 2015, the time before that, December 28th, 2014. I feel the second one was a MyLab, though. Kevin states 3 weeks ago, and they left evidence. He left us wanting more. You know, I think we need an encore with that one. He is a musician. Ron Moniak, the Ukrainian watermelon known around these parts, height unknown, weight unknown, from the middle of Saskatchewan. Put your hand up and wave, Ron, so we can see you waving from anywhere in North America. He says, I'm married, and that never happens no more. She stopped after the kids. Wow. All right. A little bit of Canadian humor there from the Ukrainian watermelon. Charles says, Dave, I have been taken for a ride, taken for a fool, taken for granted, and just plain taken. Which kind of taken do you want to know about? Well, it's a little late to find that out. Don't you think? All right. Scott says, taken by aliens or another human being you trusted. You need to specify. Well, I think because of the show topic, we're talking aliens. Shouldn't be that hard. Jackie says, I giggle. I shall never tell. Dale from Australia. Dale. I think she needs a hyphen in between that. Dale. There needs to be a hyphen there. She says, I believe my aunt's last year. I had a dream. I saw a light at my door. I heard a person's voice saying, come here, come here. To that extent, I got up, but then I got scared and ran back. I felt myself wake up, and there was a gray alien being at the end of my bed trying to grab my feet. I then saw another gray, a really tall one, run to the side of my bed, and then I screamed. I panicked. It was a very primal fear. Then I woke up. The next morning, went downstairs, and my aunt told me she had a very bad headache. My cousin said the same thing, and that she had a nightmare. My aunt also said that the TV outside my room kept turning on. Weird, to say the least. She got taken. She got taken. Definitely. Have you ever had a body part picked up, Eric?
No, but let me say this. This came to me just now that I've been thinking about this. What if, and I'm just saying what if, with no evidence, what if the MyLab experience is an alien implanted screen memory?
Could be. And
that is not just... You never know. You just never know. Because these aliens, I'm just going to call them aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to name, whatever you want to label them, it doesn't matter. These superior intelligent beings can do whatever they want with the conscious mind of most humans, in my opinion.
And on that note, my friend, we got to wrap this thing up. Thank you so much, Eric with the K, for coming on for hour number 3. Really do appreciate that. You hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. We also want to say a big thank you to our guest for the first 2 hours, Suzanne Ross out of Sedona, Arizona, the artist, radio and television star, and an author as well. Look her up on Amazon. Go get her books. Definitely worth it. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the SOR Paranormal Roundtable. We do it the final Friday of every month. I hope you come on in and join us for that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. The panel doesn't know the questions. Only I do in my evil little mind. Ha 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 ha. We want to say thank you to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for Mr. B as he rocks us right through each and every night. I want to say a big thank you to everyone listening in at home, in your cars. Maybe you're at work doing the shift. Thank you so much. Everybody on Periscope.tv, including the newbies like Nova and Noel, thank you so much for checking us out for the first time. I want to say thank you to everybody at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, in the Spreaker chat room, and the veterans of the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing this show and helping us grow each and every night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Own it.